Jeffrey Clarkson is a meditation composer and thought leader, currently living in New Zealand. Jeffrey has 11 music albums released, including a total of 23 meditation-length tracks. Jeffrey writes a weekly column under the banner of Remembering Peace on Substack.com and has published a book titled In the Key of Peace. So Harry is going to post all these links in his session in the chat. In his live presentation, Jeffrey delivers his music in a beautiful meditation ambience. Between his music, he speaks to the qualities of peace and connection, being essential aspects of living a spiritual life as a conscious humanitarian. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes. This is it. This is me starting. So yes, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. As Vinay just said, my name's Jeffrey, and I'm coming to you from New Zealand, or as I like to call it, Zelandia. And if you're interested in that, I'm quite happy to talk about it at another time. But it's an interesting country, Zelandia. I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but also quite excited to have this opportunity to present my music and the musings all at the same time, and all in the vibration of meditation. And vibration has a lot to do with music. Today I'll be speaking to peace and connection being essential aspects of living a spiritual life. And I tagged on to that as a conscious humanitarian. Humanitarians, of course, are more well known for going overseas, if you like, and helping in countries that have had problems and helping people to survive. But there's another meaning for humanitarian, perhaps a human who cares for other humans. And so a lot of my music has been written on that basis, that I want my music to be able to help people to heal their lives. Anyway, I'll be touching on these aspects through the story of introducing myself initially, because I suspect that not a lot of people out there may have heard of me. I know there's a lot of people that have joined in today who already know me, but as I said, there might be some who don't. So I'd like to introduce myself and what I've been doing for the last 73 years of my life. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but we have programmed some music to be playing in the background while I'm talking, so I'm hopeful that you may be able to hear that. And that music that you will hear once you hear it, there it goes, is my own music. It's music I've written for meditation. And it's been a really amazing 40-year journey that I've lived, the last 40 years of creating music for that purpose. I guess you could say my whole music life has been about music and the vibration of music, and I've always been interested in the effect that music has on people. Just briefly, I began my music career as a performing artist and composer in rock and roll music. And rock and roll music, of course, does have an effect on people. It's not quite a meditative effect. Some of it might be, but mostly not. It was when I was in my early 30s that I kind of felt like I wasn't really playing the music that I had within me. So I stopped doing rock and roll, and I went and learned to meditate. The reason I learned to meditate was I had heard that well, meditation was made quite famous by the Maharishi in conjunction with the Beatles. And so it got around in the Western world that meditation was good. So I guess that was the reason why I went and learned to meditate, and that was 40 years ago. And I've been meditating daily ever since. I learned the TM method actually, and there were many benefits that meditation brought into my life right from the get-go. And one of the well-known benefits of meditation is our memory. We get to remember things again. Of course, a lot of people who lose their memory, that often happens because they have a lot of stress, and so they have to get below that stress to find the memory which has always been there. For me, it was, I guess you could say that meditation was a little bit like a time machine. And I was able, I'm talking about the first 6 months of my meditation life, I was able to connect with my early life, and I'm talking when I was a child. And what I saw, which kind of jogged my memory in a bit, was that I had these magical experiences in a local botanical gardens, which after I realised what these experiences were, I understood why my life was steered very squarely toward music and writing music. The experiences, just briefly, and they are in that book I wrote called In the Key of Peace, but I found myself as a child the recipient of hearing music coming out of thin air around me. Not having been on planet Earth for very long, I thought that was quite a normal occurrence. What I did notice was that the vibrations seemed to be in harmony with what I was looking at. So in the gardens was there were beautiful trees and flowers and little stream passing by. To a child, it was just an amazing surroundings, and I felt quite mesmerised and very comfortable in the stillness that the music made at the time. And all this was what I was getting through meditation. I was going back there and experiencing this almost as if it were for the first time. As I continued to meditate, I found, not every meditation, but I found on at least 2 or 3 meditations a week, I was able to revisit those times, and frequently enough that I was able to rewrite that music when I came out of my meditation. I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn how to take it was the memory of what happened in the meditation, and then apply the memory of that once I'd come out of my meditative state. I'd have my keyboard in front of me, and I would start playing what I'd heard as close to the original of what I heard as I could. And some of that music you're listening to behind my voice right now was the product of that music. And so I continued to do that. Oh, I would also mention too that not every piece of music I have written and recorded was from the memory of my childhood. I guess you could say the memory of my childhood got me going and got me to understand the meditative vibration. And by that I mean the vibration that relaxes people and enables them to get down into those meditative states. So I was able to get hold of that, but I also took the energy with me to write music that came out of my own creativity. And so a lot of the music also is not what I heard in the gardens, it was what was inspired by the gardens. So to date, to this day, 40 years later, I've released 11 CD albums, cassette albums once, but CD albums, including 23 full meditation tracks. What I mean by that is that there are. I was writing meditation tracks approximately 20 to 25 minutes long, because that was the recommended length for a meditation. And so I have 23 of those meditation tracks that are on my website at the moment, and you can still buy the CDs. Not they're slowly dwindling away, you might say, because not a lot of CDs are getting played in the world today. So it's all about streaming, and it's all about downloading. So you can download those tracks from my website. Once I did all this it was about the early, when I started writing the music. It was around 1985, 1986. In fact, this piece of music you can hear behind my voice at the moment was called Butterfly, and Butterfly was a 22-minute track, and was written 39 years ago now, and it still sells very well. There's still a lot of people want to buy that or download that music of Butterfly. But it's the applications that really were quite extraordinary, a part of meditation music back there in between 1986 and 1990. The use of the music was interesting because it was obviously very good for meditation and healing, and it also applied to yoga, tai chi, natural medicines, lots of natural therapies, and also mainstream medicines. Mainstream medicine hospital clinics used it as a background just to keep people peaceful. Coronary care, cancer treatments, and those types of mainstream medicine therapies used the music as well. So it had quite a diverse range of uses just for a piece of meditation music, but it was recognised for its relaxation. But also what was really extraordinary was that the music ended up to be good for conversation, and people found it easy to talk over. In fact, I was often invited to play the music behind business meetings where people could talk to each other, and the relaxation in the music allowed them to get down into their deeper thinking naturally, and some people recognised that in themselves and would come to me and say, well, how did you do that? How did you manage to get me to think of things I usually forget? So it was really good to have this feedback and to know that the music was working in that way. For me, the music was a healer. I think deep down, the number one reason that I created this music was for myself. It wasn't my intention to write music for other people in the first place. I felt like I just needed to achieve that level of relaxation in my life, and I wrote the music to do that for me, and it just happened that it worked for other people. But I found the music good for getting in touch with things like getting in touch with my inner child, getting in touch with that part of me that could experience what I was experiencing for the first time in my life. So you remember when you were a child and you sunk your teeth into an apple, how great that tasted. And then as we get older, we lose that sensation because we expect it and because we've done it so many times. But that first time creativity we have is a really important thing. And so the inner child, the music had that inner child quality about it, kind of in the simplicity and in the sounds that I used. They were tinkly and jingly, and yet there was this really sustaining texture, almost drony texture underneath the music, which was more of what I heard in the gardens. But coming back to creativity, excuse me, I realised one of the music, when you got down to those insights, just like at business meetings, you have this playing in the background and you suddenly find yourself having really deep thoughts. Or if you're in a conversation, you suddenly realise that your memories got very clear and you're able to talk to people about things you often forget. And for me, it was about getting in touch with that real deep creativity. And after a while, I started to get insights about that. And what came to me was that creativity is a channeled act. So it doesn't matter. I believe that it doesn't matter what type of creativity that you're indulging in, you are actually channeling when you're being creative. It's kind of like, because you're looking for new thoughts, you're looking for new experiences. You're looking, in my case, I was looking for new music, and when it came through, it's like whoosh, it all came through, and I had to really move along quite quickly to catch it all when I was writing it down. So, well, I didn't always write it down when I played it, and the technologies today remember what I play, so not so much writing down, but a lot of recording. So it was interesting that creativity, being such a natural ability for humans, came through meditation. I was able to connect with that a lot more in my meditations. And and as I said, I believe that when you're being creative, you're channeling. So you'll often notice in my weekly newsletters, when there's a quote or something, I'll always sign my name Jeffrey et al. Because Jeffrey et al. Means Jeffrey and all. In other words, not just me, it's me and everyone else who's helping. And I always had that feeling that people were in there with me, helping me write this music. If it wasn't in the way that they wrote their music, these might be past lives for some spiritual entities. It might have been the instruments they used, but a very interesting phenomena there. I'm not sure, do we have, are people writing messages, Ruben, or no, not yet? If people have questions, I was thinking of maybe a bit later in the conversation, but if you're dying to ask me a question, feel free to send an email through, sorry, not an email, a message through on the right-hand side of your Zoom screen. After a while, I'm going to go forward now to probably around 2010. I wrote all that music, and as I said, I have quite a few albums out. I lived in the small country of New Zealand, on Zelandia, which is a big country, and it wasn't easy to get this music out there around the world, because, and that was always what I wanted to do. I thought, so many people would benefit from being able to meditate using music. And I'll just touch on that for a minute, because when I learned meditation, I learned the TM method, Transcendental Meditation Method, and what's connected with that method is the mantra. And I heard the mantra, and but I also realised once I'd started writing the meditation music and I was meditating to it, I found that I didn't actually need the mantra anymore. I could go to the same level of meditation just by being with the music. But there were a few things that you needed to do with the music, or a few ways of hearing it that were important. So around 2010, it took me quite a while of meditating, and of putting a system of meditating together where you would meditate to music. And I called that, and in 2010 I started to teach people to meditate, evening sessions online, or not so much online because there wasn't much, but I taught meditation for 4 or 5 years after around the 2010 mark, and I called the style of meditation Simply Stillness. Because stillness was a really important part of meditating. If you couldn't be still, it could be very difficult to meditate. And of course the mantra helps there. Equally, so does the music. So I started teaching Simply Stillness Meditation. And there were 3 ingredients involved in meditating to music, and the first one was stillness. So what contributed to stillness was, are you comfortable meditating, or do you have to wriggle around a bit to make yourself comfortable so that you could be still? So I always said to my students that it was important to be comfortable when you meditate, and part of that was, of course, making sure your back was supported. So that was what stillness was about, and it was about keeping absolutely still. The second ingredient of the Simply Stillness meditation was the music, and of course I had written that, so it wasn't hard for people to listen to it. But there were a couple of things that were important to meditating with music, and the first thing was not to have the music too loud. In fact, over the years, because I meditate to my own music, now that I've got a lot of it, I can switch to different tracks and things. But the volume you need to have the music at for meditation is very low, because of one main, very important point, and that is once you're sitting there still with your eyes closed, your ears work better. So if you think you had it quiet when you started, and then you go into this meditative state, because you've got your eyes closed and nothing's distracting you, suddenly you realise that the music feels like it's a lot louder. So you have to get over there and turn it down a bit, but you get used to that and you start with it very low to begin with. So very important for meditation, you listen to the music quietly, very quietly, and you can still hear it all, believe it or not. Even the quiet pieces played quietly, you can still hear them, because that's the value of meditation. Your hearing becomes a lot better. The third ingredient of Simply Stillness meditation was, what do we do with our thoughts? And this is always one of those questions that pops up with any type of meditation. But for Simply Stillness, by the time I was teaching meditation, I had been meditating for 15 or so years, and I had a position I held on thoughts. I wasn't so worried about clearing the mind to meditate, or particularly the idea of clearing the mind. To me, kind of created a confusing psychology within a person, like trying to clear the mind when it's your mind that's thinking. Trying to clear your mind is a very difficult thing to do when you don't have an objective standpoint. So I started by saying to people, well, if you've got a thought, have the thought. Have the thought and just let it be and let it go, and let itself go. Don't try and do anything with that thought. And also there's the other way of looking at it, which is that thoughts can be very handy to a meditation, very handy to your personal growth. Sometimes when you're meditating, you've actually got yourself into that position of being still, of making sure the music's at the right level. Some of the thoughts you get are often thoughts that, being still and being quiet, bring up the issue of an issue that you might have been holding down for quite a while. And when you get into that stillness, very quiet part of yourself, this is what pops up. So knowing what that is, and so meditation has actually helped something come forward that you now know that you need to deal with. And if that brings some sort of tension into your body, then we have this beautiful thing called the breath. And the breath is such an amazing, I mean, we need to breathe, right? We need to breathe. But in a meditation, you can use your breath to relieve any tension that you have in your body. In fact, part of meditating is, in the beginning, to develop that stillness, is to let go of any tensions in your body, and you do that with your breath. So you breathe into the tension, and then you breathe the tension out with your breath, and you do that in a very easy way. So the thoughts, if thoughts bring forward any tension into your meditation, you can easily breathe that out. And when you do that, you're actually breathing the issue out as well. So you're actually relieving the issue, and therefore there's healing going on within you. So meditation is the absolute best healer. So those were the 3 ingredients that I recommended for the Simply Stillness Meditation. And on my website, I do have an audio program that's available. I found that, I'll just jump back. I found that this Simply Stillness method was really good for people who were coming into meditation for the first time. So learner meditators could benefit from this style of meditation because of the easiness around having the music and just letting your thoughts be rather than trying to clear your mind. And the good reason why actually letting your thoughts be is a good reason. Where was I? Oh yes, that's right. And that was pretty much what the Simply Stillness method was. And I have this audio program on my website which you can get, and it teaches. It's about 90 minutes of what I'm basically squashing into 5 or 10 minutes. And it's experiential as well, so because you don't have to watch anything, it's all audio, you can meditate away as if there was someone talking you through it. After I taught meditation for 4 or 5 years, and then I felt, my intuition was coming in and saying, oh, well, you need to move on now, there's other things you need to do. And people who I had taught meditation to, and there were hundreds, were starting to teach it to other people anyway. So kind of like, okay, what do I need to do now? And then I got the message, well, you need to write a book. So I came up with this title, In the Key of Peace. Because peace was, when I thought about meditation, I thought, well, inner peace, if meditation does one thing for people that meditate, it's that it connects them with their inner peace. And so In the Key of Peace was a kind of a play on words with between music and meditation. So I want to read you something here that I wrote around what is inner peace? What actually is it? So within each of us exists a time of profound peace. As a continuing moment of absolute bliss, it encapsulated our entire experience at the inception of consciousness. Its imprint is our deepest memory, and its vibration is the most beautiful feeling imaginable. As a fundamental aspect of consciousness, peace, in its most profound sense, is the inaugural experience of life. It is peace, and only peace, that pervades our consciousness in the fullness of life's first moment. I'm talking human life's first moment. And you could be inside the womb when this is happening too. The energy field of our human consciousness as we experience it today began in the moment we became a single cell. In that first moment, our consciousness was peace, profound and absolute. Within that peace, everything was complete. There was nothing to be attained or achieved. In the beginning, there was peace and only peace. And I had help writing that. That was, again, being channeled, I believe. I mean, I love peace, and I love the way that music can create peace so profoundly within us. But I never saw it totally that way. And as I said, creativity is channeling. Further to that, what I just read, I'm just going to read you this as well on peace. Because it continued after that, but it was more of a poem, a verse, and it was, I have found that being at peace with myself exists as a constant within my deepest nature. Unlike most other things that are achieved through striving, to be at peace is an undoing of action and a surrendering of effort. When I am at peace, there is no attachment to attainment or achievement. There is nothing more than what is present. Within that infinite twinkling, I am totally content. Being at peace connects me to where peace begins. In what feels like a moment of nihility, I am somehow before I began, and yet I am here now. As I see it, peace is the fundamental of consciousness. Everything I have achieved and everything I have become since is built over that foundation. When I am at peace, I feel like I am below and before everything in my life. I am at the beginning of me, and I am here in this moment passing all at once. Maintaining this level of peace is important to me. Short of its grounding, I am suspended without connection. Through losing and regaining its presence, I have realized its essential vibration. When I search for my deepest human desire, peace is always the hand outstretched. To be at peace begins every journey in life. To be at peace is the beginning of everything. So that's what the Key of Peace, the book, is roughly about. There's lots of things in it. I've gone into what happened early in my life in the gardens, hearing the music, and then my journey through music, and then each of the albums I've produced, there's a little explanation about that, and then there's a chapter about how music heals, and that's well worth a read. And I know all this stuff, but it's interesting that it came to me very early about the healing power of music, and I absorbed a lot of other musicians' ideas on that as well. And so that chapter is in the book, and there's also a lot of emphasis on, as I said, on the inner child. We are living in this world where there's so much pressure to perform, so much to do, so little time to do it. And so the inner child becomes important, because the inner child is that part of our life that where we saw things simply, where things were simple, and where the creativity, our creative juices, if you like, were in their original natural state. So there's a lot of the inner child in the book as well. Anyway, moving on, once I'd written the book, I moved to Melbourne, of all places, and I started channeling quotes, and I started putting up quotes on Facebook and Instagram, and because we're, in those days, we're talking after 2016, 17, 18, the social media platforms were starting to get pretty popular. So on I went, and I came back to New Zealand in 2020 because of the pandemic, and I just didn't want to be stuck in Australia when I have grandchildren here, and so I came back to New Zealand. And one of the things that hit me when I got back here was how important it was to get people, ordinary everyday people, meditating. In many ways, ordinary everyday. What are ordinary everyday people? Well, I guess you could say ordinary everyday people are people that focused on their life, the facts, what's proven, the scientific way. There's not a lot of intuition involved in there, a little bit, but not a lot. So it was about getting people to take time out to be with themselves, to discover who they really are. But you see, industrialisation, which happened like 300 years ago, has caused this thing where people are too busy to relax. And so my focus has been to try and get through to a lot of those people. So it was important that I what could I say? I don't think meditation needs to be over promoted. I think it can't be, because it's not a trend. Meditation is a very natural thing for humans to do. And how do you remind people that they're not doing something which is natural to them? You actually can't do that. But what you do is you do that through your own example of life. So, I meet people that don't meet me, that don't know me all the time, and I don't make a thing of telling them that I'm a meditator. But people pick up things in my languaging that would suggest that there's something about me that's a wee bit different. And I don't think it is different. I think it's natural. And I think, our natural human state is to meditate. So how do we get that out there? There's only one way, and that is to live that, be the change you want to see in the world. That's the most important thing. And you be the thing. You don't go out preaching and promoting that way. You just be the meditator who lives their life in fulfillment, and show that to the world when whatever work you do. And one of the things I'll just mention quickly, because I'm going to start and play a piece of music soon, but is that we have each human being is a different sentient being, and each of us has a purpose here. But that's a very natural thing that we understand and know when we come here as a child. But because the child is taught the earthly ways, some of those earthly ways are very handy, by the way, but perhaps too much. If we're taught so much rational information that we lose our intuition, then that's not worth it, because it's our intuition that tells us what our purpose is here. And once we find our purpose, that's natural to us. In other words, whatever job you do that's natural to you is what you should. I don't use the word all the time, but it's what you should be doing. And you do that, and people will know when they're around you that you're happy, you're fulfilled with your life right then. And that's important for people to see, because they'll always say, what is it about you? There's something about you that's it's a bit different. And it's actually, I know millions of people that meditate, thousands of people that meditate, and they're not different at all. We're not different. We're not all the same either, but we're natural. So I think this is important. So what I've done, my way of being natural and promoting meditation at the same time, is to play my music live. And here I am at 73 years old, strapping on a little instrument called a guitar, and I'm going to do that right now. I think Ruben's going to switch my camera around. As you can see, I'm holding this little instrument, and sorry, Ruben. I'm holding this little instrument. I'll get up and stand up shortly, but I've got this. It's a normal keyboard instrument, and it's called a guitar, and a guitar is the Maori pronunciation for guitar, because they don't have a G. Well, they do, but they don't use it on guitar, so they call a guitar a guitar, a guitar a guitar. Guitar, yeah. So it's the normal one. With my right hand I'm playing a keyboard, with my left hand I'm bending the notes, and with my mouth I put this little attachment here, and I blow it, and as soon as we get there, or get a sound happening, here we go. It's all right. We're going to, so as soon as, very shortly, we're going to play. I'm going to play for you a piece of music that's 22 minutes long. So you're going to, it's a piece of meditation music, but I've developed this meditation shape, if you like, in music. So the music can start quite not over energetic, but it can start with a bit of melody and it kind of establishes and it feels good, and then it goes into a really deep place in the middle where you go deep into a meditation, and then it comes back out the other side even more fulfilled and feeling good and happy than you were when you started. So I try to follow that shape with the composition of the music. And so that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to shift to that piece of music. Well, we're going to make up for about a half a minute we lost at the start. So it's all about timing, isn't it? So here we go. This piece of music is called In the Gardens, and it is written as a inspiration of my early life memories. Thank you. Get my mic name. Hello, hello, Harry. I got
Oh,
me.
hi,
It's
God.
beautiful,
Oh, thank you
mind
so
blowing,
much.
mind blowing. It's so soothing and divine, no doubt about it. We are so
Oh,
fortunate to have you and get to know about you. Wonderful, Jeffrey.
I'm so privileged to be here. I'm the one who's honoured. But yes, thank you. Very much
Thank you
appreciated.
for thank you for playing that such a beautiful divine music for us. It's wonderful.
It's
Thank you so
outstanding.
much.
I think some of the participants have just messaged like, it is just outstanding. And then we are very fortunate to have you. Like you have lifted up the spirit of this program with your music. I mean, I can't say how much thankful and gratitude we have for you, Jeffrey, for this beautiful music. Like I have a few comments like, this music is touching my deep down self and awakening joy. Um, and feeling a little sad that we are missing real joy of our true self. Okay, amazing.
Yeah,
So people are touched, and you have touched the souls of the participants here, and even the people on the YouTube. Amazing, Jeffrey.
thank you so much. Just wonderful. I mean, I get so much out of being there playing it. And then, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, ma'am, do you have any questions, ma'am, that came to you?
Maybe I made
People,
too good a job of explaining it.
no, it's wonderful. If anyone have questions, please send it in the chat, please, and I can.
Yep,
So, meanwhile, Jeffrey, like from my side,
Jeffrey, and working from last 40 years, and there is it's a divine connect. It's a divine connection, and it's really wonderful. And the way you link up the meditation, the music, and the soul, it's absolutely. I think the universe choose you for all of us.
the universe chooses all of us. That's for sure. Yes, so right. Yes, so right, Fernanga. Yes,
so
yes,
I have
and
something to ask or share, probably,
yep,
Jeffrey.
yep,
So, thing is, for this group and many of the participants, right? So usually we listen to a lot of spiritual philosophy, and then we meditate, enjoy the music, right? Lot many
yep,
people doesn't really care where the music coming from and from what depths. We enjoy music, without meditation
yep,
doesn't really amplify. Music definitely amplifies meditation, but the focus of this logical mind is more towards the subject of spirituality. But
Yep.
today you have uncovered that space through this program where, you know what, wherever the philosophy is coming from, the speakers to the practice to the
Yes.
students,
Yep.
it's the same place where the music is coming from as well. You know,
Absolutely. Yes.
naturally.
So right. Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's something that you have uncovered through your words and also through your music today, and that's a big eye opener for many of the spiritual aspirants here. You know what? Music has equal importance to the spiritual philosophy that we hear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and music is so common to humans. I mean, I've only met one person in my life who never liked music. And and I can still remember that gentleman, music is so ingrained into us. All we need, what the universe reminded me of was that slow it down a bit, make it beautiful, and make it for meditation, and that's what I've headed for. And I have this deeper dream that says I'd just love it if we could all a whole lot of humanity could meditate. Not sure that's achievable, but I think we can get a good deal of them through music. And I think that if we can bring people to meditate, whatever way we can get them to meditate, so is amazing. But it's really nice to be able to do that with music, and because music has been so close to humans.
so
Yes,
yeah. So I think
So,
one of the comment here says, if we come to New Zealand,
so,
can we meet you?
yes, you can meet me. Who was that from?
Rajani.
Rajani,
Yeah.
if we come to New Zealand, yes, you can meet me. You certainly can meet me. Just get here and contact me. I'm sure we can set something up. I call New Zealand Zelandia, by the way, and I like to quickly explain that. Zelandia, New Zealand is just the top edge of a huge continent which is under the water. 94% of what of what Zelandia is under the water, but it's a whole continent, and now it's the Earth's eighth continent. And of course, we think in New Zealand we're from a small country. And I have to say right now, I'm guilty of that one too. But we don't. We don't come from a small country. We come from a huge country. It's almost the size of Australia, and it's called Zelandia. And I thought, I like that name. I like that name, Zelandia. I like the IA at the end. And it's New Zealand sometimes has been going through the question of should we rename ourselves, should we call ourselves this or that, and why not call yourself what you really are? And that's Zelandia. Most of the human consciousness is under the water too. When we think about ourselves as a conscious being, it's only a little piece that sticks out the top. Once we meditate, we start getting down into the depths of who we are. Same for the country. Let's call a country by what meditation brings to us. Let's call it Zelandia. Anyway, it's not up to me, but I'll promote it.
Yeah, ma'am. I think there are some comments coming. Um, I think I have one that came from whom. Let me just ping to Pamaja ma'am. Just
so Lavanya, she subscribed to your channel. So
Yep,
that's
lovely.
wonderful, Lavanya.
Yes, and that is such a good, beautiful thing to say, that you felt like you were in nature, because that's where I felt like when I first heard the music when I was only 4 or 5 years old. So yeah, it's.
We have
you
a
tell me
question
you're
for
doing a good
you,
job,
Jeffrey.
Nancy.
We have one question for you, Jeffrey, from Shravani. Shravani. Wonderful music. I want to share something, sir. While listening this music, I felt great energy at my third eye with open eyes. It is fun and wonderful experience. She said, "Thank you to you."
Oh, thank you. Yes, third eye centre. Yeah, I've always said that when you close your eyes, your third eye comes open. And so everything you're seeing in your mind is through your third eye, and that's lovely. A lovely comment. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. Like,
Yeah.
it started 40 years ago. Like, how initially you got this, like, you want to do it, music, connect the music and meditation. Is it like an intuition you got it initially?
I was, well, I wondered why in my early life I wanted to do music because I had forgotten the early experiences. So I tried to work out what's driving me toward music. Why music? Why not something else? And it was only later, after I was 30 and started meditating, was able to go back and have and see those experiences. I had to understand what drove me to music. It must have been meant to happen that I was supposed to forget, because putting the memory of the original memory and the 30-year-old, 33, 34-year-old musician together, it just seemed a natural thing to do, to put music with meditation. Not forgetting that I came from quite loud rock and roll music, and I enjoyed it, but it was quite specific to my age. And when I grew a bit older, I thought, it's not quite doing it for me anymore. So what is my music? Well, music has been this huge thing I've done all my life. What am I supposed to do? And I guess that's when the meditation came in, and I found that, not only found it in my meditation, but it was meditation music. And that was an extraordinary synchronicity, really, to find it that way.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes when I hear the rock and roll music, I feel more anxiety, but yes, this kind of music is really soothing and great. I have one more compliment for you from Shalini Kumar. Music appeals to everyone. I once got told by a flute player that our body is like a flute with all the keys touching our chakras
Yeah.
and system running, and all gets attuned to the sounds of all music. I suppose amazing experience, and yes, music brings us close to nature. And thank you so much, he said. Yeah, great.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, Shalini. Nice spelling on your name, by the way. 2 E's on the end. Very good. But apart from that, yes, our chakra system is definitely... So the chakras, from the base chakra through to the crown chakra, I remember I composed a piece of music which had 7 3-minute segments in it that ran into each other specifically for the chakras. That was quite a while ago, so I'm talking 1988, I think. That album Songbird came out, and it had the Rainbow Forest, which was that chakra meditation. And in those days, it's a wee bit different now, but the root chakra, the base chakra, was the note C, and then it went up the body through the sacral centre, the power centre, the heart centre, the throat centre, third eye, and crown in C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And so I've been quite conscious of those keys as I've worked through this type of music to... I've really found that there are certain keys I actually quite like. They just appeal to me, and I found that they have a lot to do around the heart power centre and the throat chakra. So, yeah, very, very a good comment, and thank you for bringing chakras into it. Thank you.
Any questions, guys?
No more questions? Going once? Oh, I did this little...
I have one if
yeah.
no one has. I do have one. So
Yeah.
you know how much I enjoy it, because I love music naturally. But this is something different, because there are different layers that music goes into. Like, sometimes it's the body. We tend to dance, and then body responds more, and then it goes to body, between just body and mind. Sometimes it goes to emotions, where we go to an emotional layer, but this is
Yep.
this is going into the soul layer. Okay, So, is it only, do you see that only particular instruments that uh, can be of this sort of Celtic or, soulful music? Or um, it's just about we being prepared and then connect to any instrument that happens? What do you think?
I'm sure there's going to be some geniuses. The way that we're teaching our children today to connect with what they've come here to do rather than just get schooled is going to bring forward geniuses. And I'm sure there'll be musical geniuses that can play a trumpet to a meditation. That's one of the instruments you think, how could that happen? But just to elaborate on that was interesting. On that piece of music I played, the first part of it was a person, I'm saying, well, meditate to this. So they sit down in their chair, they close their eyes, and the music plays away. And then it goes into that centerpiece, which is incredibly deep. And they go deep into the meditation. Then it comes back out, and it's kind of very colourful. And I've often at live performances of this particular piece have said to people, well, look, when you get after you've been into that deep space and you come back out, if you're feeling in the mood to allow your soul to dance your body, then do that and stand up and do movements. And I've had some people who've done that, and the movement is almost ballet. It's like the hands go up in the air and the body moves gracefully, and people do that. So that can be a meditation too. Because it's tagged onto the end of the meditation, and it's the soul expressing itself. In your meditation, you connected with the soul being of who you are, and then why not go off and allow your soul being to dance and to move? So that was a component that I had in my mind in the last 3 or 4 years. In fact, I think I picked that up in Melbourne, that idea that we should be able to move in our meditation after we've gone into that deep state, which is definitely stillness, to allow your body to move from that stillness into movement. But the movement is different if you let it go that way. So that's a good question. There's a friend of mine, Barry, who wants me to play Rainbow Rhapsody.
We have quite a few requests there on that. I'm not sure how long that's going to be. Is it okay to end the show with that by any chance?
The Rainbow Rhapsody, not that easy because
Okay.
I don't have the backing track here on the computer, unfortunately. But I'd be happy. It has been played on. I think there's a video on Instagram of me playing that. So maybe I'll get Barry that link. Look, I wanted to explain one thing. Right at the end of that piece of music, I did this, right? And in the live performances I've done, I noticed, this is going back a few years, that when I'd finished a piece of music that people connected with, they would clap, and you get all this clapping, and the clapping was getting acknowledgement from the audience, but the downside of it was it kind of cut right through the energy of the music. In other words, the music was beautifully peaceful and still, and it felt good, and it helped, it put people in meditation, and then everybody claps. So we created this thing called finger trickles, which was silent but the same. So a lot of my audiences that know me will, when I finish a piece of music and they've been meditating, everybody will do this to each other, including me. So finger trickles is the new applause, but only after meditation.
Great. I think we have one more question, is it, ma'am? From Swati. What genres of music is good for us? I mean,
Yeah.
and probably for
Well, if you, I think any music you like the feeling of is good for you. Any music you like the feeling of is good for you. Any music you don't like the feeling of is not good for you. So it's not saying that there is a genre that's good for everyone. It says that whatever you like, keep doing it. Whatever you don't like, don't do it. that's what's good and what's not good for you. However, I would say that I'm finding as time goes on, I'm finding myself getting a little bit more involved in the jazz style, but not imitating the jazz genre, but bringing jazz into a very slow place, but a feeling place too. So I had this connection with Louis Armstrong a few years ago, and part of my repertoire I play What a Wonderful World. I've slowed it down and I use a very deep flute sound on this instrument, and it's a lovely feeling because the idea that we do live in a wonderful world kind of escapes people at times, given what we're going through. But if we can remember it's a wonderful world, it is a wonderful world, and keep connected to that as much as you possibly can is very important. So in terms of what music's good for you, well, music has good lyrics is good for you too, if it's a song. I mean, if it's an instrument, for meditation it needs to be mellow and it needs to be sustained, the sustained sounds. But like I said at the beginning, maybe what you don't like, don't listen to. What you do like, it's good for you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for a good question.
Yeah. So my name is Rajni, and I have a question for you. So the state you took us to, that is the wonderful state. How often do you experience that? I do experience once a while in the meditation or when I read the Vedas. If I know something that is like a profound meaning, I get to that. But how can we get to that point more often?
Yeah. Or you could listen to more music, more of that music. That's one way. I think the what immediately sprang to my mind as you were talking was this change in consciousness that humanity's going through, and I think more and more people are having more and more experiences of that state of being that you just described, and it's happening because more and more people are feeling it, because we're all part of a collective consciousness. So you've got people who have beautiful feelings versus people who don't have beautiful feelings, who have some other feelings. And what the result of that consciousness is what it tends to change everything in all of us. So it's now, what I started saying was, it's easier to feel that bliss, that joy for life, because it's happening more within us, because more and more of us are getting into that. And so I think if I'm finding myself a little bit starved of beauty or of joy, I usually go to nature, because nature is beautiful to us because it's part of us. And so I'll usually go there, and I think most people do too, enjoy nature, not all people, but I think that that's one place you can go. Sometimes when we're not feeling very beautiful inside, that's actually what we need to do. We either need to meditate, or else if we've got a beautiful scenery around us, go and sit in the middle of that and meditate. I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, last week I was in Sydney.
I live about 80 kilometres north of Auckland. Yeah. Oh, right. Yep. Yep. Sydney's, well, cities are, I sometimes have to go into the city, and the energy in the cities is not great.
Yeah, but the thing is, we went on a ferry.
More and more
cruise, and I was connected to the Panchi Mahabhutas, the water, the scenery around. 2 hours on the ferry boat, like a cruise.
Yeah,
I had so wonderful experience. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Yeah.
I think your music has surpassed many layers for many of our participants. That's amazing present. All right, ma'am. I think over to you.
Thank you so much, Hari. Yeah, and thank you for asking me.
Now,
I felt really blessed when you called me and said,
now
"Would you
you
like to
are
be part of this?" And,
now you are part of our family, Jeffrey. So I'll keep coming to you.
okay.
Now,
Well, you'll
now
just get the
after
same
listening
reply.
after listening to your music, no way.
Ah,
We are going to meet more times, and we are going to do some real as well. I'll work that out later offline. But yeah, it's truly
yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So do we have time for meditation or
Yeah, we'll do meditation
just
now.
we?
So with that,
And
Jeffrey,
can I request Jeffrey to play a nice?
I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I could, if you're wanting something about, I think it's about 7 minutes. I do have the track that Barry asked for, Rainbow Rhapsody, but I won't be playing to it. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a full recording of the original piece. So if you like, I can start that right now.
My internet freezing.
Maybe I think that's a good one, Jeffrey. Let's you play that for 7 minutes, and we'll get into meditation. It's good to end with your music as well. So we'll sit for 7 minutes, and
It's happening right now. Here we go.
request everyone to sit for meditation.
Cross your fingers. Sit in a comfortable position. As Jeffrey said, stillness is more important. Stillness, calm, soothing. Played by Jeff. All of you all listen, enjoy the music. Sit in a comfortable position. Relax your whole body from head to toe. Just relax. Enjoy the music.
Jeffrey, for amazing music and the meditation. Thanks for joining us as well. I'm not sure Vanja ma'am has internet issues. So on
Thank
behalf
you
of
so much.
the host and all the participants, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll keep meeting. Lots of gratitude. This is one of the outstanding sessions that we had
Oh,
today.
thank you so much. And thank you to all the participants as well. I think I forgot to do that, but where would we be without them? Thank you so much, each and every one of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.